going to talk about my brother. We'll call him Kurt. So, when Kurt and I were growing up, we were like 15 months apart. And all we had was each other. Through everything, all we had was each other. And somewhere along the line, through different times in our lives, we've remembered things and then forgotten them and then remembered them. We trigger each other during certain life events and then just forget it again. It's really bizarre. Right now in our lives, he remembers one event and I remember far more. It has put a strain in our relationship, and we're not talking right now. I'm not talking to most of my family. My biological father, he's a pretty terrible person. My grandfather was even worse than him. The abuse that I can imagine my father went through when he was young is horrific to me, because I know what I went through was horrific. I'm sorry. When I do these videos, I start talking about things, I start seeing like pictures in my head of specific events that were flashbacks that are now memories to me. So sometimes my mind is all over the place when I do these, and trying to find the words for certain stuff, and it takes me a minute to get my mind and my words and my emotions and everything kind of all together so that I can articulate it. I remember I mentioned this in an earlier TikTok. I remember the stairs situation happening. It was one of my earliest memories. I remember my father punching my mother to the point where she split her lip open and had stitches. Just simply because she was telling him she didn't like something he was doing. I remember the feeling of being terrified. Like if you said or did anything the wrong way in their eyes, you were gonna have to fight for your life. Like you were gonna have to fight for your life. And it was a crapshoot whether or not you were gonna make it out of there. I know that when my parents got married, she was pregnant with me. I do know that they moved out into their own house for a while. And then I think something happened, or couldn't make bills, or my father's alcoholism got in the way, something. And they ended up back at my grandparents' house. And they basically turned the attic into a little apartment. And they had their bed up there, and my brother's crib, my bed. There was a couch. I remember the layout of it. And that's where I remember my father hanging my brother and myself over the stair railing. Was the attic stairs going down to the main floor of the house. My mom, it took her a long time to earn their trust to be able to go out in public, do anything. She had me and my brother there. The situation that was going on there was atrocious. As we got older, we were made to live underneath the kitchen sink in our own urine and feces, and my mom would, or my grandma would be doing dishes after supper, and they would take the scraps off the plates. And they would put it through the door, in between the two doors, the sink. Me and my brother, we used to fight over it, actually, until my mom told us that we needed to do every other bite. He got one, I got one, he got one, I got one, so that neither of us got more than the other. some point, I think in my mom's mind, she thought if she didn't get out of there and get us help, that we were going to die. But if she left with us, they were going to track her down and they were going to kill her. And I think she knew that. I think she fucking knew that. One of the last memories I have of that time, and I'm leaving out some details because I just don't think they're appropriate to share. But my mom had gone grocery shopping, and I remember her coming in. She had a paper bag, a couple paper bags, I think, with groceries in them. And she set them on the table. And she went and she had a conversation with my grandfather. And after that conversation, she was crying. And I was sitting on the table, kicking my feet. And she came up to me and she whispered in my ear that she would come back for me. And then she walked out the door. And she left me and my brother there. She knew how bad it was. She knew that they had no regard for life. And she left us there with those monsters. My brother was treated like a rag doll. They would just pick him up by his legs and just walk around the house and just fling him on the door frame. I remember him falling to the ground. This was before my mom left. And they told her, if you touch him, I'll fucking kill you. Of course, she's petrified. Her baby is on the ground, you know. She doesn't even know if he's alive. And I was underneath the sink. And she told me that we were gonna have to work together, giving him sips of water. To make sure he was okay. And if they were caught feeding us at any point in time, they would be beaten mercilessly. My grandmother or my mother, mercilessly. but they would do it. They would do it anyway. I remember my mom banging on their door after she had left, saying that she wanted to see her kids. And they wouldn't let us. We would scream and we would cry. And then we would get beat for screaming and crying. And we didn't see her for a long time. During that time frame, things got progressively worse with the abuse at my grandparents' house. A lot worse. And my mother had met someone who introduced her to drugs. She started taking, I don't know what, to numb herself out, not feel. She wasn't bad yet. Not real bad. Still knew she needed to get her kids out of there, but, you know, that had the start of a problem. And her boyfriend at the time later became my stepdad. He was a drug addict. I was still pretty young at this point. Four, or under the age of 4, because my mother married my first stepdad when I was around 4, and this was before that. I'm gonna stop for now. Collect my thoughts, come back to it.